So I've been asked to come talk a little bit about my ultra running adventures, and I was going to start with the question I most usually get, and it's why? You know, why would you want to be an ultra marathoner? Why would you run that far? Why would you do that to your body? You know, I kind of get this like, are you crazy or what kind of feeling. And I have to admit, like 8.5 years ago, I was one of those people too. I didn't know much about ultra running. And I had the same questions, you know, why would you want to push that far? Doesn't it hurt? You know, why would you even go there? And really, I wasn't even a distance runner until I turned 40. I ran my first marathon. And prior to that, I had done some 5Ks and some 10Ks, but never, ever would have ever thought that I'd be running a 50K, much less 50 miles or 100 miles. So it was quite the journey. It kind of started when my husband got deployed overseas, and I had 2- and 4-year-old girls, and running just kind of became the activity that I did to just get away and de-stress. It's just my quiet time. And I started doing that a little more and more. They got longer and longer. And you always have time to reflect when you're out on these long runs. And I started thinking back when I was in high school. I had a cross-country coach, and she was a marathoner, and she always said, someday you need to get out there and run a marathon, even if it's just one. And that seed, you know, kind of started surfacing again, and I decided, you know, the time was right. So I jumped online and found some beginner training program and just started following that. And I don't know, 3 or 4 months later, I packed my kids up, hopped on a plane, and flew to Arizona. My in-laws were there at the time, and ran my first marathon, the Rock and Roll Arizona. I have to say it was not the most pleasant experience at all. I think I did like everything you could wrong. And I think part of that is because, you know, I read so much and I had to do this, I had to follow this. I had so much structure that I didn't listen to my body. So by the end, I was like totally miserable. But then I crossed the finish line, and it just, I don't know, it goes away. You have a total feeling of accomplishment and just, you know, self-gratifying. You know, you did something you never thought you could do. And it's really weird. I'm not ever going to compare it like to childbirth, but it's kind of like all that miserable feeling, and then it's just like, wow, you know, I really did something that I never thought I could do. And I was back, maybe 3 or 4 days later, I was back online trying to find my next marathon. And for me, I'm very self-driven, self-motivated, and I like physical and mental challenges. And this was kind of fitting that role for me. But I was back online looking for something because I wanted to do it better. It's always about bettering myself, not necessarily any competition. It's always about, you know, doing it better for myself. I'm always a woulda, shoulda, coulda person, and I learned something from every run that I've done. So anyway, I think I'd done like 20, 25 marathons when I finally got enough confidence to look at our local ultra running group. They ran on Saturdays, and I thought, well, maybe that's a good way to see some different, you know, I was always running kind of the same routes and meet some people to run with, and I blame everything on them, actually. So they showed me all the trails around our beautiful community. I mean, we have a beautiful trail system, and I just fell in love. I mean, there's something about being out on those trails. I run a lot by myself, and it's just so freeing. And of course, I was the road marathoner running with the ultra runners, and they kept giving me crap about that and saying, you know, you got to get in a 50K. It's actually easier on your body than you think, and, you know, just give it a try. And I'd laugh at them. But, you know, then again, that seed was planted too, and that kind of came to light. One day I decided I'm just going to do it. And I signed up for Elkhorn 50K, and it's pretty tough for your first 50K, but I did really well there, and won free entry into Le Gris 50 mile, which scared me to death, but I couldn't say no. I mean, I won free entry, so I got there. It was like 0 degrees at the start. My water froze like by mile 4. And of course, there were people out there to help me along. But I just call that a very memorable experience. And then I won free entry. I did well there. I won free entry back into Elkhorn 50 miler. And that's kind of the end of my story as far as how I got going. I mean, you know, it doesn't hurt that I was doing well at doing the long runs. And, every time you pass through the finish line, you're like, wow, I really did it. But for me, there's way more to it. When you do these really, really long runs, find a whole different kind of solitude out there that I can't get anywhere else. I have a pretty high-stress life. I do have a 40-plus hour job. My husband works out of state most of the time, and I have 2 teenage girls. And when I get out on the trails and do these long, long runs, that kind of all goes away. You don't have time or energy to worry about everything else that's going on in the world. That's my time to live in the moment. And you can live in the moment for a long time when you're running 100 miles. You're pretty much, strategizing. You can plan it out. I'm a planner. I like to have everything in order. But when you run 100 miles, there's no way. You can plan the best you can, but you have no idea how your body's going to feel, if you're going to, go the wrong way, if you're going to roll an ankle. I've gotten lost before and, ran an extra 4 miles. And when you're running 100 miles, that's very demoralizing. And that's where your brain has to kick in. You've got to have that mental strength to just go with the flow, keep, your intense focus on your goal and just go. So it's just very meditative for me, very kind of a spiritual experience. So that's really what keeps me coming back, is that just kind of like a total emotional stress cleanse. And then when I am done with it, I'm too exhausted to worry about anything else. And then I can come back and start over. The other thing I'm very thankful for, every time I throw my shoes on, whether I'm running a mile or 100 miles, is just being able to get out on those trails. Because I know there's a lot of people that would love to not necessarily run the distance, but just be out there in nature. And so I never take that for granted. And then I have a wonderful family that's been very, very supportive. And without that, there's no way I'd be doing this, because they do come first. I try to fit my runs in at noon hour, and then I do long runs on the weekend, but I get up early. I try to get them in so I at least have time with my family later. And they've been some of my biggest supporters. So that's really why I run far, I guess. It's alluring. The challenges, I like the harder the challenge, the better it is for me. And it's a passion of mine, and running is part of who I am. And as long as I'm able to do it, I'm going to be out there doing it. And if I can't think of a better way to see the beautiful landscapes in our, community and just all over the world. If I can plant that seed for someone else, it's even better. So that is all I have to say, and I am very honored that I was asked to speak today. And hopefully some of you guys will want to go out and try an ultramarathon now. So thank you very much.